What's up, superheroes? Welcome back to my channel, the place where we make the impossible possible. I'm Scarlet Grace from UnseenSeraph.com. I'm a manifestation coach and I'm back with another video to help you manifest your desires faster. If you're new here and you want to learn how to manifest any desire fast with the law of attraction and Neville Goddard's teachings, then start now by hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you won't miss any video that could change your life. And if you need some extra help and my personal advice for your situation, you can sign up for coaching. And I also have a 21-day course on how to manifest your specific person, a scripting course, and other law of attraction and manifestation courses. You can find the links for all of those in the description below. So in this video, I wanted to talk about revision. Revision is a technique by Neville Goddard, and it is a technique that we use when we want to change the past. So what do I mean by this? Neville says that what happened in the past doesn't stay in the past. It moves forth into your present and your future, and it creates your future. This makes sense because what happened in the past is what created your assumptions and your beliefs. And based on those assumptions and those beliefs and those expectations, you manifest a future by default. So for example, if you have a relationship in your life that is difficult, maybe you have a boss that is very demanding and isn't treating you right. If this is what happened in the past, and you don't change what happened in the past, then by default, you're going to keep manifesting a difficult relationship with this boss. Or if there is someone who told you some things that you didn't like, so maybe you were in a relationship with someone and you broke up with them, and you both said some hurtful things. And you want this person back now, but you keep thinking, how am I going to get this person back? I was so nasty to them and they will never forgive me for what I said. Or maybe you cannot forgive them for the nasty things they said. So you love this person, but your mind keeps going back to all those hurtful things that they told you. If this is the case for you, then revision is exactly the thing you need in order to manifest your desire without carrying all that baggage from the past. So first of all, I'm going to give you the main revision technique, how exactly we use revision to change the past. And then I'm going to give you a few tips around how I use revision personally and have the best effects with it, and how I advise my coaching clients to use revision to have the best possible results. And I'm also going to go through a few common problems that people face with revision. So I know that some of you have tried revision in the past and it didn't give you the desired results. So I have a few tips that hopefully will solve those problems for you and will make revision super effective for you, as it should be. What exactly is the revision technique? The revision technique is very easy to do. Basically, if you use visualization to manifest anything, revision works exactly the same way. Revision is a visualization, is an imaginal scene, but it's not for something that you want to manifest in the future. It is actually an alternate past. So think of your life like a movie. You already know that the physical reality is an illusion and it is all created by your mind. You're the one writing the script in this movie. You're the one deciding what is going to happen in it. You're the one who chooses the cast, and you're also the one starring in the movie. So this whole movie that is your life is yours to do with it whatever you want. That means that if there is something in your past that you don't like, you can treat it like a movie. You can decide that this thing that happened yesterday or a month ago or 20 years ago, this specific scene, this specific memory that I have, isn't something that I want in my movie. Because I keep thinking about it and it makes me sad. I feel that my movie would be better without that scene. And instead of just taking the scene out, which is difficult to do, what you're going to do is you're going to take the scene out that you don't like, take that memory out that you don't like from your past, and replace it with something that is actually good, something that is empowering, something that creates a self-concept for yourself that is the one that you want to have. So for example, if you were bullied as a kid and this left you with low self-esteem, low self-confidence, this is something that has no reason to keep being in your movie. If you have specific memories around being bullied that are haunting you, you can just take those memories out and create a different past for yourself. So maybe you decide that the past that you want is that you were not bullied, you're actually a very popular person in high school. Because if that had been your experience, then right now you would have much more confidence, you would believe in yourself more, you would feel more loved, you would expect people to like you and love you and men to pursue you or women to pursue you, and that's the reality that you want to have. So let's change that past. So how you use revision is this. You choose one memory to work on. You can do that with as many memories as you want, but you have to focus on each one individually. You cannot do one session where you change 50 different memories. First of all, you decide on what the memory that you want to change is. So maybe you want to work on one specific memory that isn't part of a pattern. So let's say, for example, that normally you have a great relationship with your boss, but yesterday you had a conversation that was kind of an argument, and now you feel insecure about your place in that company after that. And you would like to change the past, to change that conversation, so it went completely differently. Maybe you regret saying something or reacting in a bad way to something they said. That's one specific memory. It's not part of a pattern, so you take that memory and that's what you work on. If you're working on a pattern, like being bullied, then you take all the memories that you feel are relevant. So if you have 4 or 5 prominent memories of being bullied when you were in high school or at any point when you were a kid, you take those memories, write them down. You're going to work on each of those memories individually and in chronological order. And I'll explain why we do that in a bit. So the main technique is this. You take one specific memory and you ask yourself, if I had a magic wand and I could erase this memory completely from existence, if I could erase this specific event, this specific incident from my life completely, what would I put in its place? So, let's say that this is one of those scenes where you were being bullied. You don't want that specific memory. You don't want to have that specific experience in your past. What you want instead is for you to have been super popular when you were in high school. So, just like we do when we come up with an imaginal scene that is after the end result that you want has already manifested, we do the same here. What is a scene that would imply that you were very popular when you were in high school? This is the scene that you construct to put in the place of the scene that you removed, the bullying scene. So maybe there was another person that was super popular, and if you hung out with this person when you were in high school, that would imply that you were one of the cool kids. So you construct a scene that implies that you're friends with this person. So maybe you had lunch together. You sat at the cool kids' table. If that's the dynamics that existed in your school, you can use a memory like that. You construct the memory, you construct your imaginal scene the way you construct every imaginal scene. So you need to keep the scene short because you're going to have to replay it many, many times in your mind. Don't make a 5-minute long scene. Make it just a few seconds long. 10 or 20 seconds is usually enough. You can script it if you want to know exactly what is going on. What are you wearing? What is the other person wearing? Who else is there? Is it hot? Is it cold? Where exactly is this taking place? You create the scene as vividly as possible from a first-person point of view, so you're inside your body looking out of your own eyes. You're not watching this as if this is a movie on TV where your body is playing. You are inside your body looking around you in the scene. And you make it vivid both in your physical senses and emotionally. So this new scene needs to be very positive, needs to invoke strong positive emotions in you, whether that is joy, relief, whatever. You construct the scene, and then you get yourself into a relaxed meditative state, and you start playing your scene in your mind vividly from a first-person point of view. Again, this is very important. And when it's over, you play it again, and you play it again, and you play it again. The goal of revision is to persuade your subconscious mind that this new memory that you constructed is what really happened back then. Now, in most cases, when you have done revision correctly, you will still remember the original memory. Sometimes you don't, sometimes it gets completely wiped out, but this is not always the case. In most cases, you still remember the original memory, but it doesn't feel real. Because your new memory feels so vivid and real after replaying it so many times, that the original memory, even though you still remember it, feels like something you saw in a nightmare many years ago and is not important anymore. And that's how you know the revision has worked. So this is the basic revision technique. This is how you revise anything. You can use it on absolutely anything you like. But there are a few ways to make it super effective and ensure that it actually works. The first thing that you need to do in order to make sure that your revision actually works is you have to repeat your scene many times. This is crucial, especially if you're working on a long-standing pattern or an old memory, not something that happened an hour ago or yesterday, but something that happened in the past. You need to repeat your revised memory in your mind many times. This is because when something traumatic happens to us, we tend to replay it many times. So if you have a bad memory, if you have an event that haunts you from 10 years ago, you probably have lost count of how many times you have replayed this specific memory in your mind. In order to undo that, you need to play the new memory enough times that it takes root and pushes the old memory that you also replayed many times out of the way. So as you can understand, in many cases, this cannot be done in one single session. So my advice when it comes to revising old things, not something that happened 30 minutes ago, but something that happened a month ago, a year ago, a decade ago, especially if it was traumatic for you, if it was not just something that you didn't like and you want to change, but it is something important to you, is to replay your revised scene at least 100 times. Because if you do 100 repetitions of a memory, this is usually enough to plant this new memory in your mind and make your mind consider this new memory that you created the real memory, what really happened, instead of the old memory. Here's the thing though, if you do 100 repetitions of your revised memory, or if you spend 2 weeks revising that memory, replaying the revised memory basically, but you feel that you haven't basically planted this memory in your mind properly, you still get flashbacks of the old memory, then that means you have to keep doing it, that you're not done yet. So many people, many of my coaching clients, when they come to me, they tell me, I've used revision and I've revised everything that has to do with this situation, but I still have negative thoughts and I still cannot fully believe that this situation is going to shift because it has gone wrong so many times in the past. Well, if you're thinking all those things, this is your cue that lets you know that the revision wasn't fully done, that you didn't do it properly or you didn't do it for long enough. Because if you had done it and it had actually worked, if you had fully revised that event, you wouldn't have doubts associated with that event. If you had 5 failures in one specific situation and you had fully revised all 5 to make them successes instead of failures, then you wouldn't have nagging doubts that you're going to fail again because you remember those 5 failures. Your mind wouldn't go back to those 5 failures. So the point of revision is to reach a state where if someone were to ask you out of nowhere, hey, what happened back then with Josh? Immediately, before you even have time to think, the memory that would pop in your mind would be the revised memory, not the original memory. If you haven't reached that state, that means that you have to keep replaying your revised memory, or that you need to make it more vivid. Maybe you're replaying a memory that doesn't have much of an emotional content for you. The memory needs to be very vivid. The scene that you planned in your past needs to be very vivid. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So either you need to examine your scene and see if maybe it falls a little bit flat for you emotionally, in which case you change a few things in your scene to make it so that it invokes strong positive emotions in you, or if the problem is not with your scene, if your scene feels perfect, then you have to keep replaying it. You need to do more revision, more repetitions of your revised scene in order for it to take root in your subconscious mind. Now again, this is not always the case. So if you're revising something that just happened and it's not something that has this huge negative emotional impact on you, it's just something that you would like changed, then you may not have to do several sessions. Maybe you do one session and that's enough. So for example, let's say that your sister called and she told you that her business is not going so well and you want to change that. You don't have to wait. You don't have to spend weeks revising this. What you do is, the moment the phone conversation ends, you close your eyes, you don't even have to move from where you are, and in your mind, you replay the whole phone call, but she's calling to share the news of how her business is a huge success, how she made 10 times more money in her first month than she expected. And you hear that conversation instead of the conversation where she said that her business is failing and she doesn't understand what she's doing wrong and she doesn't know what she's going to do. You keep replaying the conversation where she actually called to share good news, not bad news. And you keep replaying the conversation until you reach a point where you're confident that this is the real conversation, that your sister actually called with good news. And your mind doesn't want to go to the old conversation. You don't feel you need to worry about your sister. You don't feel that you need to help her. Everything is already perfect for her. So maybe that requires just one session. You just hang up the phone, close your eyes, and spend 20 or 30 minutes replaying this new conversation in your head. And maybe it's fully revised and you don't have to go back to it. If you don't catch yourself during the day going back to the original conversation and worrying about your sister's business, then that means that it worked. You don't have to do any more. If you catch yourself worrying, then do another session. You can even do instant revision. So while someone is talking, if they're saying something that you don't like, you imagine in your head their voice saying what you actually want to hear. And you hear that conversation. But the instant on-the-spot revision, as well as the revision that only requires one session and it's done, is usually for recent things and for things that don't have a huge impact on you. If you're trying to change something from the past, especially the distant past, or something very traumatic, or memories that are a pattern that you want to change in your life, like everybody leaving you or someone cheating on you and it keeps happening, those are deep memories. You probably replayed the old memory too many times in your mind already, so they're going to require more work for your created memory, your revised memory, to be planted in your subconscious properly. The second tip when it comes to revision is if you're using revision to change a specific pattern in your life, something that keeps happening over and over with different situations and different people, then write down all the relevant memories from as far back as you can remember and start working on them in a chronological order from the oldest one to the most recent one. This is because things that happen early on in life usually are more impactful. So, if you have a pattern that started during your childhood, it will do more to shift that pattern, to remove that pattern, to go back to that memory from when you were 6 years old and revise that memory first than it would do to start with the most recent memory. So, for example, if when you were 13, your first boyfriend, you caught that boyfriend with your best friend out on a date and he was lying to you and your friend was also lying to you, that's the start of a pattern. If this kind of situation keeps manifesting in your reality, going back to the last time this happened and changing it will not undo the pattern because the pattern didn't start there. It started when you were 13. So you go back to that original memory from when you were 13 and undo the pattern there, because if you do revision on the first ever memory of that pattern, this will make the pattern crumble, and then all the future memories that are similar to this, all the future things that happened along that pattern and according to that pattern will be so much easier for you to revise. You go to the first experience that you can remember, and if you don't know where this started, that's not a problem. Just pick the first memory that you can remember, the oldest memory that you can remember that follows that pattern. You work on that memory first, and when that is undone, then all more recent memories will be much easier to revise. And when you revise all the important memories of the pattern, then the pattern is gone. And that means that you will notice that you don't have to use as many affirmations to tell yourself that this situation is not a thing anymore. So if, for example, this kind of thing happened when you were 13, and that led you to believe that you're not good enough and that you cannot trust people, and you have affirmations that say, I am enough, and I can trust everyone in my life, I'm surrounded by trustworthy people. Well, you will notice that you won't have to keep repeating that you are enough or that you're surrounded by trustworthy people over and over and over. Your subconscious mind will suddenly accept that as its new belief, because it doesn't have all those negative memories telling it otherwise, telling it, but yeah, this happened. So do you really think you're enough? No, all that is gone because the memories that started those limiting beliefs are gone. So now your affirmations will take root much faster and will manifest a different reality for you much faster because you don't have all that baggage holding you down. The third tip for effective revision is, if you're working on a traumatic event, sometimes your mind will resist the new revised scene that you create if you still have strong negative emotions about the original memory, about the original event. So one thing you can do to change that is to take that original memory and do a few things with it in order to make it not as painful as it has been up until now, basically. So one thing that you can do is you can use EFT or tapping in order to release the negative emotions associated with that memory. Now, if you don't know how to do EFT, I'm going to link a video. I'm going to put the link in the description below so that you can learn how to do tapping. It's very easy and it's very effective for many people. So you take the original memory, the painful event, and you use EFT on the original memory until you reach a point where, on a scale of 0 to 10, your feelings about the original event are 0 or as close to 0 as you can get. If you've tried to revise a very painful memory and you keep replaying the revised memory, but it feels the same, it feels like it's not working, then try EFT on the bad memory, on the bad event, and then try revision again, and you will see that things go much more smoothly. The other way to release negative emotions from the original memory is by using a few NLP techniques. So NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. That's a whole other topic to get into, but basically, here's what you can do. You can imagine that you have a TV screen and the original memory is playing on that TV screen or that computer screen. So you're not inside your body in this case. You do the opposite of the kind of scene that you construct when you want to manifest something. You are not inside the scene. You're not in your body looking out of your own eyes. You're sitting somewhere and you watch this movie. So imagine that back then, someone took a video of this scene that you want to now revise. So you're watching yourself playing in that movie of that memory. We do this because we want distance. So when we manifest something, we want to be inside our body, looking out of our own eyes, because this makes it personal. This makes it a vivid experience, and you want it to be vivid because you want it to feel real. In the case of removing negative emotions from a memory, you don't want to make it personal. You want to detach from it so that you can more easily let go of the negative emotions. That's why you're watching a video of yourself playing in that memory. And after you put that memory on the screen, you imagine that you have a set of controls that can do all kinds of things to the movie. So for example, you can imagine that you have a button that makes the colors gradually fade until your movie is black and white, because black and white isn't as vivid as color. So this by itself can help make your emotions associated with this scene less intense. Or you can imagine that you have a button that when you push it, it makes people's voices be funny. It makes people's voices sound as if they inhaled helium. So if this has to do, for example, with someone bullying you, you can push the button and make the bully sound like a cartoon. And this will make you laugh, and this breaks your connection to the negative emotions. So suddenly, that scene, even though it's something that you don't like, a memory that you don't like, you do not associate it as strongly with depression and feeling inadequate and strong negative emotions because you put an element of fun in it. You made it ridiculous. You can even switch the scene and make it so when the person gets that funny cartoonish voice, everybody laughs at them. So instead of people bullying you, they're suddenly laughing at the abuser, at the bully. And when you're done playing with your movie, when you feel that it's not so negative to you anymore, what you can do is you can imagine that you have a button that fades the colors out completely until it's black and white, or just black or gray, and imagine that you have a printer and you hit the print button and you print a still photo of that memory that is basically just grainy and black and white. You take the paper out of the printer and imagine that you're ripping it up, and as you rip it up, all your negative emotions associated with that memory are gone. You can even imagine energy being released from the paper as you rip it up. And then you can imagine even burning those little bits of paper and blowing the ashes away and seeing the ashes of that memory disappearing in the distance. So all those things, you can play with those things, you can come up with your own buttons that do whatever you want. The point is to switch the memory up in ways that release the negative emotions. So try that on the original memory and then come up with a revised version and start the revision, and you will notice that it is much easier now to immerse yourself in the new memory, in the revised memory, without the old memory bothering you. Another thing that is very important for revision, it is a thing that is very important for imagining to manifest anything actually, and this is, in order for this to work the best and the fastest, you need to be in a very relaxed state. So don't try to do revision when you're upset with something. That is not the best mind frame to start using such a technique, because you're going to work on something that you don't like. So unless you're doing revision on the spot, don't pick a moment when you're stressed or when you're tired or you're grumpy in general to do revision. Pick a time when you actually feel happy, when you actually feel okay, because that's the ideal time to start using revision. A time when you're already feeling negative or stressed or depressed is not the best time to do revision. And when you do revision, it is important for your body to be relaxed. So you do revision in a relaxed meditative state, in what Neville calls a state akin to sleep. That means you can do revision when you lay in bed at night before falling asleep. You can do revision before taking a nap. But if you're the kind of person who has trouble imagining before falling asleep, either because you fall asleep too fast or because you cannot fall asleep if you keep imagining something, you don't have to do it before bed. What you can do is you can spend 5 or 10 minutes doing some meditation, relaxing your body, and then you start replaying your revised scene. One easy way to accomplish this is find a guided meditation that is not for manifestation, one that is for de-stressing, for relaxation, for something like this. And use that guided meditation for 5 or 10 minutes, and when you feel that you're fully relaxed, then you hit pause, and with your eyes closed, you start playing your revised scene, your revision scene from a first-person point of view, making sure that it is vivid, that all the positive emotions are there. And when it's over, you play it again, and you play it again, and you play it again. And because you've done the relaxation meditation first, you know that you are in a relaxed meditative state. You're basically already in a state akin to sleep. And this will imprint that new version of the past in your subconscious mind faster. And it ensures that your revision will be effective. If you liked this video, then give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, then subscribe and hit the bell icon, because I put out new videos every Sunday to help you manifest an amazing life.